Hey guys, so this is the third time I've tried recording this video, so I'm just going to do the intro on camera here. So we are in Brisbane. We are shooting for a company, you'll probably see it on YouTube soon. Thought I'd just try to get a tutorial in. I want to travel and create content while still teaching you guys through these YouTube tutorials through the course. So we'll just try to squeeze one in here. So we have Ricardo here. He is inside the course, but we're doing some YouTube tutorials with him as well. So he does 3 lessons inside the course, teaching you guys exactly how he edits. You get the preset, you get the tutorial, you get the raw images to follow along. So he teaches you exactly how he does it, along with a bunch of other creators. And now we're doing some YouTube tutorials as well. And anyone that's inside the course gets access to these raw images, because I find having a raw image is priceless in terms of your learning. You need the raw image, in my opinion, to learn editing. It's very, very hard to learn without it. Anyone inside the course is also getting access to these raw images.
I am very honored to be selected as one of the guest editors on Maarten's course. I've been editing professionally for about 3 or 4 years, and one thing that surprised me the most about the course is that I still learned some things, especially on the guest section, because a lot of people that I follow and I consider a big inspiration are guest editors also on the course. I learned a lot of new techniques that I didn't know before. I just watched all the course, all the theory, and I haven't watched all guest editors, of course, because there are so many, but the ones I like the most, watched all of their tutorials, and I still learned a lot. So if you're starting, if you already know how to edit a little bit, if you're like a professional, if you work with photography, this course is for everyone. I have watched a bunch of workshops, courses, and everything on the internet available. I buy a lot of courses. I like to study the market. So I have watched a lot of courses, and definitely Maarten's was the best and the most complete one. I only have good feedbacks, and once again, I'm very honored to be in the guest section. If you have any doubts about editing, I'm sure this course will teach you everything you need. Any questions for me, feel free to ask as well. Thanks, Maarten, once again for the invitation, and I hope you all like the course.
And if you haven't already watched the free training down in the description, so color and curves. 2 biggest questions I get: how to use the curves, and then how to learn color theory. That you guys want to know more about color theory, so that's a 1-hour free training down in the description for you guys to go way more in depth on the 2 questions I get all the time. So make sure you go watch that after this tutorial, and yeah, let's get into this one. So let's jump into this one. So we will chuck up exposure for a bit. So I'll turn the curves on first, because it's quite hard to tell you what is going on up here if you don't know what's going on down here. So we have a lift to the blacks, quite obvious, like we get that lift there in the deep dark blacks. And then it's pretty basic through the middle of this curve, and then just a drop to the whites, pretty common there. So color curve is pretty important. What we've done here is drop the shadow point and brought it to the left. So it's a pretty dark shadow point. I quite like to do this because it gives you quite dark shadows, dark blacks, and when you do a strong fade, it keeps a nice contrast to the image. So I quite often do that to my own images. It lets you get a strong fade without letting your image look too washed out. And as for colors, we have more red in the shadows. We've got more like warm tones in the shadows here, and then we've got less blue. So we're gonna have a lot more yellows coming in there. And then in the mid-tones, there's a favor to the greens there. And as you can see, we get all these greens throughout the entire image. Very strong on the greens. And then we, up top here, if we click on each channel, up the very top, we have a big favor to the blues, and that's just to balance out all the warm tones throughout the rest of the image. So we'll have lots of warm tones in the shadows, and then we need those blue tones and the highlights to balance them out. And I like to do them in the curves personally, and not so much in split toning, but you can do them either way. Curves are just a lot more precise and easier to work with, I find. And then obviously, like, we've got a drop to the reds there, so that brings in a lot more cyan into the highlights, a lot more cool tones, and you can see these tones. You can see there's a lot more cyan, a lot more blue in the highlights, and there's more greens in the mid-tones, balancing them out, and it can be quite tricky to do, but Over time, you'll learn this. So highlights down, let's bring exposure back, down. So clarity for a nice soft glow. Let's lift this up, bring this down. Just a bit more vibrance and pop to the image. Now this is quite important. Let's bring those yellows. No, we bring the oranges up. That's our subject and we want him to pop. So what we will do is drop the yellows though. I think that looks good. Greens, because we add these colors in with curves and split toning and stuff like that, they can get overwhelming if you don't bring them down in HSL. Oranges, let's make our subject pop. Okay, yellows. So we're going to bring in lots of yellows and stuff like that through HSL as well. So let's bring this up. Oranges to a bit more of a red. So this will change photo to photo. We just want our subject to look just right. So let's add a bit of orange there. Greens, let's warm them up a bit. As you can see, they can go a bit blue. So we're just going to warm them up a bit. Reds, not too much in the image. These blues, we're going to bring them down a lot because we're adding so much blue into the highlights with the curves there. And then as for luminance, let's bring down the yellows, the greens there. Let's bring up the blues for that shine. Right, yellows, that. Okay, so we need to add warmth to our image, so we'll go shadows and we'll go. So we've got a nice yellowy orange selected, more of a yellow, and we'll go with that, and that's going to introduce way more warmth practically to our whole image because we've also got the blending right up. So that's going to, instead of introducing that color to 50% of your image, it's going to introduce it to the entire image. So we're already looking pretty close there. Right, I think up top we could fine tune a few things. So like if highlights come down, if shadows come down, and then after this, I'll show you what all the filters are doing. All right, so 5, 3. Okay, we're looking good, looking good. Sharpening, so we don't need much sharpening, we don't want too much, but we'll bring the masking up. If you hold Option, you can see where it's sharpening, so we want the thicker lines sharpening, brushes and stuff that are already done. All right, so we've got our subject here. If I press O, you can see where it's brushed. So all that we've done here is just add warmth, so it's gonna just bring out the oranges. Pretty obviously want to add orange and warmth to him because he's our subject, he's orange. So that quite easily, really easily brings in a lot of warmth there. And then this one, just exposure, bringing them out again, especially the face. Yeah, really simple there, guys. And then here's a filter down the bottom, pressing O. So this just guides your eye up into the subject. I almost see this in every single image I do in these tutorials. So this is just guiding the eye up into the subject, framing the subject, because there's not much happening at the bottom of the image. So that's why we are doing that. And that's basically all the filters we need. And I think we're good. So if I show you the before and after, there's the before, there's the after. One more time, before and after. Alright guys, so I hope you liked that one. Sign up to the course if you haven't already, or the free training down in the description. So we'll be going over color and contrast, how to balance colors, what is color theory. I relate it to Lightroom. So it's not color theory in general, it's how color theory works with Lightroom. So it's very specific to editing photos, and you need to watch this free training if you hope to edit photos or be a photographer. And we also cover curves as well. So again, Ricardo is part of the course along with 50+ other creators, and he edits 3 images, obviously a bunch of other creators, so a ton of value in there, guys. watch the free training if you haven't already, and then also consider signing up to the course if you want to go the next level with your editing and learn from the likes of Ricardo himself and 50 others, pro photographers, pro editors that have been doing their whole life, and from myself. So I'll teach you guys all the fundamentals you need to know, how I do these YouTube tutorials, what I know about color, what I know about Lightroom tools, so then you have the ability to watch these pro tutorials inside this course and you'll understand them. You'll understand why they are adjusting things, because I've given you a very in-depth look into the tools, and you'll really be able to implement these tactics that I teach you guys, and you'll be able to implement them while watching these guest editors. So that's it guys, I'll catch you in the next one.